something when the vice chair of the Intel Committee is invoking Laura Loomer unsolicited in an interview on Bloomberg. Let's assemble our political panel. I know they have feelings about this. Bloomberg Politics contributors Jeannie Shanzano and Rick Davis are with us. Hashtag Laura Loomer litmus test. That's right, Cece. Rick is partner at Stone Court Capital, Republican strategist, and Jeannie, democracy visiting fellow at Harvard Kennedy School's Ash Center, our Democratic analyst. Rick, I don't know if this was legal. Was it the right thing to do for the U.S., and should we be promising more? That's what Marco Rubio says. Knowing that members of the Intel Committee and the Senate haven't even been told about this. What's going on here?
Well, I do think that we have ignored these various threats from our southern border, alive in the Caribbean and South Central America, for too long. And repeatedly, senior members of the Defense Department, combatant commanders from Southern Command, have argued that we've ignored these kinds of threats. We've seen what happens in places like Venezuela when we don't take action early. And Marco Rubio was just in Ecuador, and while he was there, designated 2 more organizations as foreign terrorist organizations. And I do think that's the rationale this administration is using, is that they're not attacking what they perceive as cartels or drug organizations. They feel like they are fighting a war on terror. And that then brings in the Patriot Act and other bodies of law that governs their conduct and what they can and can't do. So we see this repeatedly with this administration, including, by the way, Mexican cartels. And it would not be surprising to me that this is their legal rationale. And we should not underestimate the focus that this administration has on going to war with these terrorist organizations.
Well, that's for sure. It would be more standard procedure, I believe, Jeannie, to board that vessel, though, right? We have the ability to board a vessel, to take people captive, to search the boat and see if what we believe is on board. They just killed everybody. Was it the right thing to do?
Yeah, Joe, you're so backwards looking. That's what we used to do. Stop the boat, board it, see what's on there. Now we just blow it out of the water in international waters. Blow it out of the sky, I should say. So much of this is so wrong in so many ways that you hardly know where to start. But let me say this. These must have been some really bad drug runners if they were going to try to move drugs from Venezuela to the U.S., which is about 1,200 miles, would require about 5 fuel stops. And they were going to do so, Joe, with 11 people on board. What kind of drug runners these are, I've never heard of it. But we don't stop them and get the drugs and figure out who they are. No, we just blow them out of the water. So the strategy here makes no sense. The legality, though, is clear. The president is now decided that he can designate whichever groups he wants as terrorists and then take whatever action he wants to kill them. Now we have 11 people dead and no evidence, no authorization of the use of force by Congress. This is an act of war against Venezuela that has not been declared. And the Department of Defense is celebrating this enormous show of force we have in the Caribbean. You just look at it, including a submarine with nuclear on it, and you wonder, this is to stop little speedboats? What is going on? We all must ask, because none of it makes any sense.
Well, there's a report that we're sending F-35s to Puerto Rico now, Rick, and I realize you guys may not agree on what was carried out here, but what's your thought, Rick, about Venezuelan F-16s now buzzing American ships like the USS Jason Dunham? The level of risk could be going up pretty quickly here. How concerned are you about a conflict in the Caribbean?
Yeah, I mean, if you think that this is just a couple of drug runners, moving lethal drugs to the United States, then why is the Venezuelan government using F-16s to strafe our naval vessels in the Caribbean? This is a bigger story, and that story, I think, has been underreported for a long time, and that is that these pernicious events that take place seemingly unresponded to by us, the United States, when we have these organizations that act as terrorist organizations coming across our borders, spreading poison into our world, and by the way, and attacking our citizens, right? I mean, we have, as a nation, condoned this kind of strike capability in every administration since the 1970s. We have drones over regions of the world today killing terrorists without all this publicity associated with the attack in the Caribbean. And these are designated individuals who, once identified, are sent to their maker. So, yeah, sure, this requires more investigation. There should be procedures that are followed. But this is also in keeping with the Trump administration. We're going to send a message. We're gonna do something that will get an enormous amount of attention, and hopefully that will actually decrease the amount of illegal activity, coming across our borders in the South.
Well, I'd be very curious to hear you both weigh in on this New York Times story about another mission that the Senate, Congress was not briefed on. We're just learning about it now. If you saw this in a movie, guys, you would think that it was so far-fetched that it was funny. A group of Navy SEALs were actually on the ground in a super secret mission in North Korea back in 2019, the first Trump term. A group of SEALs, as I read from the Times, emerged from the ink black ocean on a winter night in early 2019, crept to a rocky shore in North Korea on a top secret mission so complex and consequential that everything had to go exactly right. It did not go exactly right. We brought the SEALs to North Korea in a nuclear submarine. They branched out in mini subs, actually got on the ground and realized, not knowing what it was, that there was a vessel nearby that they did not anticipate running into. North Korean boat appeared out of the dark. Flashlights from the bow swept over the water. Fearing they had been spotted, the SEALs opened fire. Within seconds, everyone on the North Korean boat was dead. The SEALs retreated into the sea without planting the listening device they had gone there to put in place. This is while talks were underway with North Korea. Jeannie, should there be an investigation here? What do we do with this information? Should the Times have published this?
Yeah, Joe, you had me on edge there. I feel like I'm listening to I love crime podcasts, so that's what I feel like I'm listening to while you're going on. It was a really good reading. I do think the Times should obviously check with the government, and they do, to try to get a response. And then I do think they have a duty to publish. And I do think we should have congressional oversight and an investigation into this. It is quite a story to read. And, we've seen this in the past. There can be justifications for these kinds of things, but certainly it all comes back to congressional oversight. And when you look at what is happening today, as we think about Venezuela, I don't think we should underestimate the role that Congress must play. I mean, your interview with Warner, they have a role here. They are the ones that declare war. They are the ones that authorize the use of military force. And in the case of North Korea, they're the ones that exercise oversight. So there is a role for a very absent Congress in all of this.
We've got about a minute and a half, Rick. I'd love to hear from you on this and whether you think Congress, in this case, Intel Committee, should have been briefed on both of these. What happened in Venezuela, what happened in North Korea several years ago.
Yeah, look, I think within reason, communication with the appropriate committees and staff, is part of the dance with the executive branch and the legislature. So absolutely, either before, during, or after those events, especially the intensely secret ones like the one you described in North Korea, not so secret when you blow a boat out of the Caribbean, deserve some kind of conversation. And again, I put the onus a little bit on Congress. I mean, they routinely pass budgets. They routinely confirm individuals. If they want to send a message to the administration, don't beat up on Laura Loomer. Stop something from happening, get their attention, and work out a deal. There are ways that Congress can work with this administration and previous administrations. This was certainly not this didn't happen in North Korea during this administration.
Yeah.
But the reality is it can all be worked out.
Rick Davis and Jeannie Shanzano, great conversation, and they will be back in our second hour of Balance of Power. We're going to bring you a conversation with the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee coming up. Jason Smith will be with us, and more analysis from Jeannie and Rick. So stay with us as we